Hi there Titans, and welcome back to another Titan Academy video. Today we'll be talking about the file uploader element in Titan Web. We are going to have an entire dedicated course dealing with files in Titan Web, and so today we'll just be focusing on some specific things that you can do with this element. The first thing we'll look at are some of the limits that you can place on the element for your end user. Then we'll show you how you can trigger Salesforce actions when a file is either added or deleted from your file uploader. And finally, we'll show you a cool thing that you can do where you can push a file as rich text to a rich text field in Salesforce. Let's get started. So as I said, the first thing we'll focus on is the limits on this element, and we have a few different options here. So the first is you'll notice that we can determine the amount of files that we allow our end user to add. If we put nothing here, they can add many files, and so we will likely want to limit the amount of files they can upload on this particular element. That goes hand in hand with an important value rule that you should set up, which is the max file size of your files. And you can do this in various file types, but you do not want to be pushed to Salesforce anything more than 30 megabytes or it will fail. So if you push a file that's over 30 megabytes, it won't go through. And that also works if you're pushing multiple files. So if you're pushing multiple files and they cumulatively add up to 30 megabytes, you also have an issue. So you're going to want to limit the file size as well as the amount of files so that their cumulative weight can't be more than 30 megabytes. The next thing you can do in terms of limiting the size is image compression, and so you have the option to compress your image in order to make sure that your file size is good. And you can also have particular file types such as PDF, PNG, and limit those file types for your field. Now it's important to note about the file types here is this essentially limits your end user from selecting these files, but they can still technically add the file to the field, and if you really want them not to be able to add a certain file type, you can create a value rule that restricts that. All right, moving on from limits, we can talk about the onAttach actions. And in this case, if I head over to interactivity and I go to onAttach action, you'll notice I get a drop down here. And this drop down shows me Salesforce actions that I've set up. In this case, I have a file push where I can create a file, and so this will let me automatically create a file once a file is added to my file uploader element. I can also trigger a delete if someone removes a file from my file element. And so these are options where you can have this automatically push, so you don't need to actually have a button or something else that triggers that push. You can do this with an onAttach action and delete it with an onDelete action. All right, the final thing I want to demonstrate here is how you can push this file to an HTML field or a rich text field in Salesforce. And we'll add a button here to do this, and we'll say push file as HTML. And I'm going to set up a push directly from my button here. We'll create a contact, but of course this can work with any standard or custom object that has a rich text field, and that rich text field can be standard and custom, of course. We'll call this particular contact HTML file. And let's head over to our rich text field that I have on my contact. And notice that for our file uploader, we have the actual file itself, and we also have as HTML, and that's what we need. Let's just give this a comment. We'll say create contact with rich text. Okay, excellent. We're going to do this, and let's go ahead and apply that. We'll save. We'll preview. Great. Let's select an image to push to Salesforce. Let's push this image of a dancing bear. We'll push it as HTML. And now we'll head over to our integration logs. I can see that we've created this contact here. And the name is HTML file like we dictated. And if we scroll down to the rich text field, we can see the image that we uploaded as a file and pushed to our rich text field. And that's how it's done.